Most of us want to be happy. Being happy might mean something a little different from one person to another. But basically, what we want is we want peace, we want joy, we want prosperity, we want to have our needs met, we want good health, we want to have loving relationships, we want to have satisfying self-expression, we want peace of mind. We always say peace is a package deal. Remember the Sandals resorts or Club Med vacations? They weren't that great, but one good thing about them was that everything was included. So you didn't have to worry about being nickeled and dimed. You just show up, whatever you needed was there. Your food was included, your entertainment was included, your transportation was included, all of your excursions were included. It was all inclusive. You can think of peace that way. When you have inner peace, that includes health. That includes good health. That includes prosperity. That includes relationships that you love and enjoy. That includes positive self-expression. Whatever brings you joy, whatever makes your heart sing is part of that. What happens is we have these ideas that our needs are so varied and that we can never really get them all solved. There's always one ball in the air, and then we have another ball in the air, and if we put a third ball in the air and we're not very good at juggling, we're going to drop a ball. I remember going through that a lot in my young adult life, thinking, can I just have a balance between relationship and career and home life? Why is there always one thing that is being sacrificed? As I grew in my understanding of the craft and my practice of the craft, I was able to answer that question that I was always plagued with. Why can't I have everything? You can, I found out. You can have everything, but it's not by searching for everything independently. It's not by trying to juggle everything ourselves. It's not by making ourselves the director of everything. When we can find one thing that's all-inclusive and go for that and let everything be taken care of for us, that's when things start to work out for us. There is that all-inclusive power. There used to be an old medieval philosophical concept about life. They likened wisdom to a wheel, and the hub of that wheel was your relationship to the infinite or your creator or your inner peace. By the way, that's all synonymous. Inner peace is your relationship with your creator. If you're at peace, you are at one with your creator. And then each spoke would represent the different parts of your life. They emanate from that central hub. One spoke might be your relationships. One spoke might be your artistic expressions. One spoke might be your marriage. One spoke might be your family. Another spoke might be your money. So all these different spokes coming out of this one hub to create this entire wheel. But all we have to do is focus on the hub, the center, and let the other things be emanations that naturally occur. I call that hub inner peace. Out of that emanates everything that I need. That all-inclusive vacation, that all-inclusive cruise, everything emanates from that. What I've discovered over my several decades of being alive, not only for me, but pretty much for everybody that I've worked with, the way we get off of our hub is through our judgments of ourselves and other people. And the reason why that can be so toxic to get into judging ourselves or judging other people is that we start to operate under a premise that that's our function, that it's our function to judge. And when we start judging ourselves or judging other people, we don't understand that that's not a function that we hold. It would be like you thinking that it's your responsibility to keep the earth spinning, or even to keep your heart beating, or to keep the oxygen in the air, or to create a balance between the oxygen and the CO2 in your body. None of that's your responsibility. Can you imagine if you had to keep your heart beating and you forgot? That would be horrible, right? But it's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to keep your heart beating. It's not your responsibility to keep the earth spinning. It's not your responsibility to make sure that the planet orbits the sun. Nor is it your responsibility to make sure that it rains. None of that is up to you. But at some point, we were taught that it is our responsibility to judge other people and to judge ourselves, whether we're worthy of being alive. And, the ego's not stupid, so it's not going to put it in those terms because it's so blatant that we would disregard that. But that's exactly what the ego is giving us as an assignment. It's up to you to determine whether you're worthy of being alive or if they're worthy of being alive. Anytime you judge yourself or judge another person, it's not for you to judge. To say it's not for you to judge is taking the responsibility off your shoulders. Oh, thank goodness I don't have to judge them. Thank goodness I don't have to judge myself. I don't need to, because the infinite already does judge you, already does judge them, because the infinite knows who you are better than you do. The infinite's not fooled by the ego, not by your ego and not by their ego. The infinite judges you according to the truth, which you're not capable of doing in the current state of your fragmented mind. Right? When you're in this state of believing in separation, believing in the ego, believing in the world as we see it, and misperceiving things, it really isn't your function to judge. How could you? How could you judge? The best thing you can do is judge whether you like the way something feels or not. That's about the extent of it. I feel good or I don't feel good. I feel at peace or I don't feel at peace. That's the extent of the judgment that you get to worry about. And if you're not at peace, it simply means that you need to reorient yourself because the peace is already there. It's not something you have to establish for yourself. It's not something you have to create. You were created out of peace. You were created out of love. And those things are just a part of the fabric of who you are. And that's why when the infinite judges you, it's something that you want. The infinite says you are peace, you are love, you are happy. All of those things are true about you already. It's just that you've superimposed a bunch of other stuff on top of there that's not organic to who you are. And that's what you're interacting with. That's what you are reacting to, everything that's not real. So it's not that you have to go out and make yourself better because you're already perfect. The best thing that we can do is let go of the things that are not real. And a lot of those things that are not real to us, we have fallen in love with. And it sounds funny to think that, well, I've fallen in love with my pain. I've fallen in love with my problems. I've fallen in love with my anger. I've fallen in love with my disease. It doesn't compute when you first hear that. But if you really are honest with yourself and you take a really good look at yourself, you can say, oh, yeah, it's true. I do love that. I do trade on certain of these things that I say I want to get rid of. I don't want my pain anymore. Well, if you don't want your pain anymore, then stop using your pain as a reason why you don't do things. Just say, I don't want to do it. Don't use your pain as your currency to not do it. Just say, I don't want to do it. Don't use your pain as a way to get affection from other people or to get people to feel sorry for you. The idea that we are in love with our problems, that we are in love with all of those false parts of ourselves, at first sounds ridiculous. But when we take time to really examine it, we can see that it's wisdom. On some level or another, we have fallen in love with the very things which are not true, which are parts of the lie. We don't have to go through all of that one at a time. We just have to say, I just want to be at peace. That's all I care about. The rest of it will be taken care of for us when we decide that that's what we want and nothing else is good enough for us. Nothing else is good enough for us except for that peace. Nothing else is good enough for us except for that joy. When we remind ourselves, and that includes everything we want, everything gets very simple. I want peace. Nothing else is good enough for me. And that's what I'm going for, and the rest of it will take care of itself. Well, the ego hears that and it tries to convince you that's very irresponsible. Very irresponsible. You have all this stuff that you're responsible for. You have all of these things that you need to take care of. And all you care about is your peace. All you care about is your joy. How selfish. Who do you think you are when there's people starving? Stuff needs to get done. You got to go and get your tires rotated. What are you talking about? Peace. Understand, when we are coming from that inner peace, that inner joy, all of those things still get done. All of those things get done very easily. Instead of at the expense of our peace, they get done through our peace because, remember, peace is a package deal. It includes the tires being rotated. It includes giving to charity. It includes all of those things that the ego is constantly shaming us about. So you don't have to worry that you're going to become irresponsible when all you do is go for the peace. Now, one of the ways that we get really tripped up with our joy and our peace and our happiness, like we said earlier, is judgment. Just like we need an object for our affection, we also need an object for our judgment. It's usually somebody out there who is exhibiting behavior that seems very judgeable. I mean, they're awful. They're awful. Look at them. They're horrible. There's no redeeming quality with them. They deserve to go to hell. They deserve to go to prison. They deserve to be punished. They deserve to have their own back on them. When we're thinking like that, it's impossible to go for peace. We think it's joyous when we see somebody getting punished, but it's not true joy. We're not enjoying that. We may for a second, but it's sort of like an addiction. You get a hit and then you're looking for another fix. Remind yourself frequently that my judgment of another person is robbing me of my joy. And if it's robbing me of my joy, it's robbing me of everything I want. Everything I want. Now, that's not to say that we ever condone their awful behavior or any of that. And that's not to say that we don't put people in prison and all of those things. Of course not. Just think of the person that you think is the worst person in the world. Just awful. They're always pissing you off or making you upset or whatever it is. Just think of who that is, whether it's a person that's in your life or somebody that's famous, whatever it is. Think of them and allow yourself to have a moment of goodwill toward them, even if you don't want to. Just do it as an exercise. Want for them the same joy, the same happiness, and the same peace that you want for yourself. I promise you, you're not going to make things worse by doing this. It's not going to get worse. It's going to get better. If you can take a few moments and wish them well, extend that goodwill in your mind and allow yourself to stay with that extending of goodwill until you get some sense of relief. There's a little click that is an indicator to you that you've done it, that that's enough. You don't have to keep doing this. But do stay with it until you get some sort of a response from your deep mind that you've done it. When you do that, what you'll notice is that your tension goes away. Your fear goes away. Your anger goes away, even if it's fleeting, even if it's for just a moment. But you really get in touch with that inner peace that is that package deal containing everything you want. As soon as you start reaping even a momentary reward for doing that, you will want to do it again. Not because you're so much better than they are, not because you're so spiritual now, but because it feels good and it gives you what you want. Remember how we talk about self-interest is important. There is no altruism. You're not doing it because you're being altruistic. You're doing it because it works. You're doing it because it brings you what you want. And if it brings you what you want, it's an indicator that it's actually good for them too. Because if it's truly bringing you what you want, that means that you are aligning with your true will. And the nature of your true will is that your true will never impinge upon another's true will. There is a place where you exist as your true will that is so perfect that it's impossible for it to harm another person on any level. When you are expressing yourself fully as your true will, it is not only good for you, but it's automatically good for everyone. And you don't have to do it because it's good for everyone. Do it because it's good for you, but just know that it's good for everyone because that will give you a sense of freedom to really lean into it without worrying that somehow you're harming people. I used to believe that just my existence was harmful. I grew up thinking and believing that just breathing, I was bothering somebody. So I worked overtime, either being really pulled back and a wallflower so I didn't bother anybody, or working to make sure I was pleasing everybody, doing things for people, doing good, and always feeling awful about myself and thinking if I only could do more good, if I only was a better person, then I'd feel better about myself. And I realized after many years of working in the craft and also working with therapists that that was a road to nowhere. I needed to do what was good for me because it was good for me. Ultimately, I recognized it was good for everyone, but that's not the motivator. I wasn't motivated any longer that I needed to worry about whether something was good for you or you or you. I got to understand that those things were your responsibility, not mine, but that when I was involved with that true will, that inner peace, that happiness, and doing what made my heart sing, automatically people around me benefited. And that was just part of that package deal. Just same package deal that we've been talking about. Not only do I get all my needs met, but I seem to be a blessing to everybody around me. But that's not my goal. It's just an added bonus. It's an added bonus that I don't hurt people when I really am focused on my good. Now, the truth is I didn't really ever hurt people, but I believed in the lie. I believed my abusers when they told me it was horrible. I believed in all of that. And so I grew up with this complex, believing that I was awful. When I was able to come to the understanding that my happiness and my peace and my joy were my only function, were my only purpose, it really didn't take long to heal that pattern. Those old habits kind of died quickly. They say old habits die hard. That wasn't the case for me. Those old habits died very quickly. That's the magic of going for peace, going right for your joy. That is your only priority. That is your one priority, is going for the hub, that hub of the wheel, and letting those spokes take care of themselves. Go for the hub and let the spokes take care of themselves. Our blessings are infinite. As I said just a moment ago, one of the fastest ways into that is to recognize when I'm being judgmental. It's not that I'm a bad person when I'm being judgmental or that I'm sinning or something like that. It's that when I'm judging another person and I'm holding resentment toward another person, I'm taking myself out of my center. I'm taking myself out of that hub, and then I don't get the package deal anymore. The package deal is put on hold because I've removed myself from that. And I've put myself into a function that is not mine. Just like I'm not supposed to try to make the world spin, I'm not supposed to judge them. And just like me trying to make the world spin doesn't make a difference in the world spinning, me judging them doesn't make a difference in them. All it does is take me out of my center. So what's the point? What good is it? And people do not want to give up their judgments of other people because on some level they believe that if they wanted the best for them, that somehow that would give them permission to do even worse things. And the opposite is the truth. The truth is you can't control another person's behavior, but you can control how you feel about them. And whether or not you like them, whether or not they have been awful or do awful things, if you can find a way to experience goodwill toward them, it's a wonderful tool to get you back in the center where everything in your life starts working. That's one of those gifts of spirit, that this horrible person can be the catalyst for your success. This horrible person can actually be the tool you use to get back into your center where everything starts working for you. I encourage you to think about who it is right now that is awful. That's just awful. Their behavior is awful. Their aura is awful. The idea of them just makes you go, bleh. That person right there is your tool to get to where everything works for you. Just do it as an experiment. You don't have to make any lifetime commitment about this. Just take it as an exercise and sit and as sincerely as you can, want the best for them. Now, sometimes that can be hard. Sometimes just going right to the goodwill can be hard. So you can take an interim step. Imagine what they were like as a baby, just a newborn. before any of their personality was developed, and recognize that they looked just like any other baby. They were just as innocent as any other baby. And since that baby is the perfect expression of the infinite, so are they. They developed into a personality that started being maybe awful, but what you can do is recognize that underneath all of that, they're perfect too. And if you can extend that goodwill toward them, what you're doing is you're melting away all of your own resistance to finding that center where everything in your life starts working out for you. And it's an easy, simple method to get what you want out of your life. And there's nothing wrong with getting what you want out of your life. In fact, that's what the infinite wants for you. The infinite wants you to be happy. And everything that goes along with that happiness is the infinite's will for you. And the fast track to finding that and to experiencing that and to realizing that is frequently extending goodwill to the people that cause you the most consternation. Because even those people, if they make you just shudder and you just put them out of your mind, you say, I'm not going to think about them anymore. I'm just not going to talk about them. I'm not going to think about them. They do not exist for me. That's called suppression. And what that does is it makes that even more powerful. It makes that resentment even more powerful because it's going on outside of your conscious awareness. And it'll pop up in all kinds of weird places for you. And here's the rub. They don't care. The person that you resent, they don't care. They really couldn't care less, usually, about whether you like them, don't like them. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't make a difference in their life, but it makes a huge difference in your life. And that's why this type of idea of forgiveness or goodwill or extending love or loving your enemies, that kind of thing, the reason why it's so powerful is because it puts us back in our power. It puts us back in our center where we get what we want. It has nothing to do with them. It really doesn't. That's where people get really messed up. You do it for selfish reasons because you can no longer afford to hang on to that much toxic energy. It's robbing you of your happiness. It's robbing you of your joy. It's robbing you of your success because peace is a package deal and it's going to bring everything to you that you want. And anything that stands in the way of that peace is no longer acceptable to you because you've made a decision. Nothing but peace matters. Anything that's not peaceful is no longer a part of my life. And you don't get rid of the things that are no longer peaceful by axing them out of your life because that is not peaceful. That is a type of suppression. What you do is you extend that ray of love and goodwill toward that person or toward whatever it is that is causing you a loss of peace. And then that puts you in the driver's seat. It's a ray gun. Kill them with kindness. And it's that ray of goodwill. It's that ray of joy. It's that ray of compassion that melts all of that resistance to you experiencing success, to you experiencing everything that you want, because everything comes out of that hub of peace. Give it an honest try. Take a person, whoever it is, go for the biggie. Don't try it on a minor annoyance. Go for the big ones. Whoever it is that you hold the most resentment toward, allow yourself a moment of time where you can sit by yourself and imagine them happy. Imagine them peaceful. Imagine that you're wishing all the blessings of life to that person. And as you do that, notice that their power over you is gone, nullified. And what you get instead is all that you desire. Everything that you want starts to happen. And it starts to happen quickly for most of us when we do this. Because when we recognize, peace is my package deal, joy is my package deal, I'm going for that. And the more joy, the more peace I can experience, the more I notice things working out in every area of my life. And I no longer have to juggle those balls in the air. I don't have to spin plates or juggle balls. It all happens for me. Florence Scovel Shinn used to say, let God juggle it. That's how you let God juggle it. It's by going for the peace, because that's what God is. God is the peace within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you means that when you find that inner peace, everything works out for you. It's very simple. It's very, very practical. Thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.